All right, I need you to stay with me for the next few moments as I share something with you. Trump and Grover Cleveland, will history repeat this pattern? And if you have not yet seen, when I did the teaching on my YouTube channel, Return of the Trump Stump, and then go back and look up the meaning of 45 and 47 with Donald Trump, I suggest, if possible, that you at some point watch that and put that together along with this teaching here. And this is something I've kind of been waiting on and musing. We shared this with you, it may have been 3 years ago or so, that there was only one president in history who was elected for a full term of 4 years. He lost for 4 years. Then he came back a second term. So some presidents get 2 terms back to back, which is called consecutive years, 4 years and 4 years, total of 8. Ronald Reagan was one, Barack Obama was one, and so forth. So this is called non-consecutive terms. So there is a break. So there's only two, and here they are. This is Grover Cleveland. Let me get my hand right here. Grover Cleveland, and this is Donald Trump. And we started talking about this when it was years ago, when it was not on the news. Nobody was talking, because nobody thought he would run again. And actually, nobody thought if he'd run, he'd even be reelected. And that was all over media at that time. But I knew that this pattern was so strange. And let me explain to you why. Okay, Grover Cleveland was the 22nd president, and he lost and he returned as the 24th. So he was 22 and 24. And Trump was 45 and 47. Okay, Cleveland lived and held office in New York, and Trump has his headquarters at Trump Towers in New York. Both were outsiders of politics. Both were running an anti-corruption campaign. And Cleveland was talking about the government being corrupt, and Trump was talking about draining the swamp. Both were considered in history what we call dark horse candidates. In other words, they were people that people believe maybe shouldn't even be involved in politics at that level. But this is interesting. Both first-term vice presidents of Cleveland and Trump were from Indiana, and both were governors of Indiana. So Cleveland took the governor of Indiana as his VP the first term. Trump took Pence, the governor of Indiana, in his first term. Both of these men had scandals concerning women. Now, Cleveland actually had a child that was born out of wedlock, from what I understand, and he was a Democrat, and the Republicans would say, Ma, where's my pa? That was what they did when he was running, but in one of those elections, he still won. And President Trump, as you know, has had various scandals from his past, and we won't go into that because everybody knows that. Both dealt with tariffs. Now, Cleveland was against tariffs, although he allowed them to come. Trump is for tariffs. Both married a wife that was much younger. Both were Presbyterians. Both were familiar with business, especially Donald Trump. Everybody knows that. And both lost the election and returned 4 years later. So I started looking at this, and this is so detailed, you can't get into it. This will be the eternal YouTube video. I'm not going to do that. And I said to myself, Perry, if the patterns of Grover Cleveland and the re-election of Trump are so detailed and parallel, what was Grover Cleveland's second term like? Was he successful? Did he fail? Did he do good things? Was he criticized? How will he go down in history? So in the second term, I did some studying, and this is what I came up with concerning Cleveland's second term in office. And see if you see any parallels with Donald Trump, okay? Cleveland made enemies because of his harsh rhetoric. Cleveland fought the media and made many enemies in the media because of it. And back then it was newspapers, today it's social media and news. Does that sound familiar? Cleveland was a Democrat, but had little interest in the party itself. In other words, he was like a Democrat, but he wasn't a Democrat. He was more of an independent. Trump is Republican, but is more like an independent. So that's very parallel. Cleveland was reelected, but the panic of 1993 caused a total economic crisis with unemployment. Now, what a lot of people don't realize at this point is, and this has happened not under Trump. He's not, well, he will be president by the time you see this, but it happened under Biden. But you've got all these companies we will not name, over 25 companies that are either shutting down completely or cutting back. You've got banking problems. So there was, after Cleveland's election, an economic crisis that came in the United States that led to high unemployment. Now, we don't know that that's going to happen, but if it does, it's simply a repeat of history. Cleveland eventually was talked in supporting a low tariff, and he's also supported the gold standard. Now, I'm not sure how Trump feels about the gold standard, but we'll leave that where it is. Cleveland refused to use federal funds to assist those who were unemployed. He believed that some people were just living off the government and they needed to go find a job. And so that's interesting. Cleveland expanded the Chinese Exclusion Act, okay? So the Chinese, now this is back in Cleveland's day, the Chinese were coming over here and wanting to work here, but there was so much conflict with China that Cleveland began to say, we're going to limit Chinese immigration. Well, here we have the same thing under Trump, except it's south of the border where people claim they want to come and work, and many of them do, by the way, but he's saying we need to limit the border. So there are parallels. Now, how it plays out in the end, time will tell. It does not mean that every detail that Cleveland did, Trump is going to do, but there are some parallels to second term. So here's the 5 issues. I'm going to go through these quickly that Trump is going to have to deal with in the next 4 years, the Lord willing. Number 1, the dollar value and the dollar being used as the reserve currency. There are people trying to get off of the dollar being the reserve currency. Number 2 will be the BRICS nation. And the BRICS nations are a series of nations. You've got Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. And many are joining the BRICS nation, and they are purchasing metals to back up a currency that they want to use. And so the BRICS nation these are the most powerful nations and the highest populated centers in the world that are joining together. And there's so much rumor and innuendo and talk. I don't want to get into the possibilities because some people are into conspiracy theories. I don't like those. So I stay away from that. But he's going to have to deal with the BRICS coalition. Number 3 is the war. China says they're going to take Taiwan back. That's a major issue with the United States because the United States in the past pledged to militarily support Taiwan, so we could be in a war with China over Taiwan. It's a possibility. Natural disasters coming, just like the LA fires. Now, when Trump becomes president, the money's going to have to be distributed from the federal government for the help of the state of California, not under Biden, but under Trump. Now, I don't know, Biden may do something before he leaves office, but you're going to have earthquakes, you're going to have natural disasters, you're going to have floods. These are going to become much more common. You know, you have the one in North Carolina where the interstate collapsed. I mean, there's some serious natural disasters, and President Trump will have to deal with that in his administration. There'll be more that will be coming. And also, there was a huge closure of malls and businesses. You've got Macy's, which is it's a little bit of a higher end store, but it's a very, very beautiful store with a lot of great things in it. But there's a lot of Macy's closings. There's the IHOP restaurant chain that's closing. A lot of times they're closing in cities because people are eating and not paying their bill, or they're stealing from the store and the store can't make it. And so they won't tell you this on the media because it's not politically correct, but a lot of stores and malls are closing in major cities where crime is high because they don't want to deal with it anymore. You know, people are getting robbed, leaving the store, and you know, mobs of kids are coming in stealing stuff. So that's what's going to happen. So I'm going to say this. While I do know without a doubt, it is the will of the Lord for him to be in. We don't know what we're going to have to face. And even when Al Gore and George Bush were running and Bush won, people thought he stole the election. But I said, no, there's something here that's going to happen that we don't know about, that President Bush will need to be in charge. And I won't go over all that. I've already taught all that in the past. So I want to say this. What I see is it's not going to be as easy as it looks. He will probably only have 2 years to get done what he wants to get done, because this is how the American people do. When the election comes for the Senate and the House, the other party, usually in midterm, many times, not always, usually takes it back. And then he's going to have a hard time dealing with those who come in from the other party. So, things often change within 2 years. So if when you pray, the Bible teaches us to pray for those that are over our nation, that we can live a peaceable life, meaning that laws will not be passed against our faith and our belief. And always pray for President Trump. And I want to say this, I've never said this publicly. I knew when that bullet flew by and he turned that it was so sovereign from God, he was going to be the president. There was no way Harris would win because God spared him for a reason. Now, folks, you've not seen the reason, at least at the time I'm taping this. I think you're going to see the reason in the days ahead. But America is at a huge crossroads. We need to have a great revival and return to God. So that's what we need to be praying for, okay? Thank you for your time. Always give this a thumbs up. Do it right now. You've got on your screen, if you have a computer, where you can do a thumbs up, and it'll help more people see this. And we always cut off, people have asked me, why do you cut off the comments on your YouTube channel? And the reason I do that is you have trolls and some of them are paid trolls to attack ministries. They're paid. I found this out just the other day. There's 10 organizations that pay people to attack ministries. They pay YouTube's people to attack ministries. They pay money on the side. And so what we do is we know that we'd have to have somebody sit there all the time and take people down and block people. So we don't want to have to deal with that. We just want to give the information. If you like it, fine. If you don't, fine. But for you that love Perry Stone Ministries and love our ministry, we thank you so much. It means a lot to us. I say that very humbly. We have so many wonderful friends and partners that have stood with us through thick and thin, good and bad. Thank you for that. That means a lot to us as well. Most of all, we give God the glory because he's on your side and he's on my side. And that's what matters. Thank you so much. Keep watching. There's always something special that follows that we're going to share with you.
Randolph County 911, where's your emergency?
There is a horse trailer and a dually just hit an SUV, drove it all the way across the road.
Okay, yeah, if you could just find out if there's any injuries or entrapment.
There's entrapment, I can tell you that right now.
It was 10 o'clock Saturday morning when I FaceTimed my precious second cousin and very dear friend, telling her about my daughter Amanda preparing to trade in her old vehicle for a new one. I did not know it would be my last conversation with my cousin on the earth. Hours later, I received a call that she'd been killed in an intersection in Elkins, West Virginia. For months, I experienced very intense sorrow while wrestling with so many unanswered questions. Why did God allow a 63-year-old woman, a caregiver with so many future plans, to die so suddenly and without warning? For 3 months, I pored over Scripture almost day and night for answers. Out of my research and personal grief, I wrote this 209-page book called Why Did You Leave Us So Soon? The Mystery of a Premature Death, to answer my questions and also questions you have asked me over the years. Here's a few chapter titles. There's a time to die and a time not to die. The danger of being with the wrong people at the wrong place at the wrong time. Why are some healed and others are not? Why did one person die yet another person survive the same accident? How does a person break a protective hedge? How Christians can commit a sin unto death. Why do infants suddenly pass away? Does God honor a deathbed repentance? Here's a few more. How sinning Christians can be delivered to the will of Satan. The danger of offending your angel. Suicide and questions about eternity. Why are many Christians sick, weak, and many have died young? Why at times when you need an answer does God seem to say nothing? That's only 12 of the 22 chapters in the book. I want to say this, if you've ever lost a loved one to death and you had many unanswered questions, I hope you will order this book. It answers numerous confusing questions about the mystery of why people seem to die before their time. It will also teach you the biblical principles of learning how to discern coming danger and pray against it. That's a very important part of this book as well. When you order this new book, I'm including a very powerful audio CD that my dad said to me before he passed away. Perry, let people hear this. It's one of the most important messages I've ever heard. Don't go to hell over a mystery. You can call 1-888-21-BREAD or order online at perrystone.org or request offer WWS-146 and include $30 by writing Perry Stone, P.O. Box 3595, Cleveland, Tennessee 37320. Again, that's offer WWS-146. You may not need this book now, but you may need it in the future. I hope you'll order it today.
If you enjoyed this YouTube content, there's an important website you should know about. perrystone.org. Perrystone.org is an essential resource for the latest books, audiovisual presentations, and digital products from Perry Stone Ministries. Resources that cover the same kinds of topics discussed in the program you just watched. Stop in and see all that's available at perrystone.org.